No warriors survived the gravity chamber. The human turned it into her training room. HFY Sci-Fi, the space station hung above the blue gas giant like a silent judge. It was large, cold, and built for one purpose only: to test warriors. Inside the station, metal halls echoed with heavy steps. Warriors from many worlds stood in lines, their armor marked with scars and ranks. Some were tall and wide, some were thin but sharp-eyed. All of them shared one thing: fear. At the center of the station was the gravity chamber. The chamber was a wide, round room made of black alloy. The floor was smooth, the walls thick, and the ceiling filled with hidden machines. Those machines controlled gravity. Not normal gravity. Weapon gravity. No warrior had ever survived long inside it. The chamber had a history. Long before this day, strong fighters entered it with pride. They walked in tall and loud. Minutes later, they were dragged out broken or dead. Bones crushed. Organs failed. Minds shattered. The station kept records of every attempt. None ended in victory. Because of that, the gravity chamber became a legend. A warning. A final test for only the most foolish or the most desperate. Today, the chamber waited again. A group of station commanders stood on a raised platform behind a clear shield. Among them was Commander Vexer, a tall officer with dark skin and narrow eyes. He had seen many warriors fail. He expected the same today. "What species is next?" Vexar asked calmly. A technician checked the display. "Human." The room grew quiet. Several officers turned their heads. Some clicked their teeth in surprise. Others made low sounds of disbelief. "A human?" one officer asked. "This is a mistake." "They are small," another said. "Their bones are weak." Vexer folded his arms. "They asked for the trial. We do not deny a request." Across the floor, the human stood alone. Her name was Lena. She was not wearing heavy armor. Only a simple dark suit made for movement. Her hair was tied back. Her face showed calm, but her eyes were sharp and focused. She studied the chamber door like a hunter studies a storm. Around her, alien warriors whispered, "She will not last 1 minute. She should turn back. She does not understand where she is." Lena heard none of it, or if she did not care. A station guard approached her. "Human," he said, his voice firm. "This chamber has killed champions. You may withdraw now." Lena looked at him. "I will enter." The guard hesitated, then stepped back. The massive door of the gravity chamber opened with a deep sound. Cold air rushed out. Inside, the room looked empty, peaceful. That was the lie of it. Lena stepped forward. Each step echoed. The door closed behind her. The chamber sealed. Commander Vexar raised one hand. "Begin test." Level 1. Inside the chamber, gravity increased slightly. It felt like Earth gravity to Lena. Normal. Comfortable. She stood still and breathed slowly. The observers waited. "Increase," Vexar said. Gravity climbed again. 2 times Earth gravity. 3. Lena bent her knees slightly. Her boots pressed hard into the floor. Her breath deepened, but she did not panic. "She is still standing," an officer muttered. "Continue." 4 times gravity. Lena's muscles tightened. Her arms felt heavy. Her neck strained. She lowered herself to one knee, steadying her balance. The room outside filled with low sounds of surprise. "No one kneels that calmly," someone said. Inside, Lena closed her eyes for a moment. Her mind drifted, not away but backward. She remembered dust storms on a mining world, gravity stronger than Earth, machines breaking, people lifting fallen steel with bare hands because there was no help coming. She remembered learning how to move slow, how to breathe right, how to survive pressure. Her eyes opened. She pushed up. 5 times gravity. A sharp sound echoed as the floor creaked. Lena's arms shook, her teeth pressed together. Pain ran through her legs like fire. Outside, alarms blinked yellow. Vitals are strained, the technician said. But stable. That is impossible, another replied. Lena took one step forward, just one. It was enough to silence the room. No warrior had ever walked at this level. Sweat rolled down her face. Her heart beat like a drum. Her vision narrowed. Still, she moved again.
Another step. Stop the test, an officer said nervously.
She will die. Commander Vexar did not move. His eyes stayed locked on the human figure. She has not failed. Inside the chamber, Lena dropped to both knees. Her hands slammed into the floor. The metal felt cold under her palms. She breathed hard. Each breath felt like lifting a weight. Her body screamed at her to stop. She did not. She adjusted her hands, shifted her knees, changed the angle of her spine. Slowly she pushed upward, her arms locked. Her legs trembled. She rose. The observer stared. She stood again. Someone whispered. 6 times gravity. Red lights flashed. This level killed a Titan-class warrior, the technician said. Lena's vision blurred. Her muscles felt like tearing wire. She tasted blood. She smiled. The chamber was not crushing her. It was teaching her. She lowered herself carefully, not falling, but choosing the ground. She lay flat, spreading her weight, breathing in short, controlled breaths. Gravity pressed her into the floor like a giant hand. Outside, Vexar leaned forward slightly. She is adapting. Humans adapt, another officer said softly, almost afraid. Minutes passed. At 6 times gravity, no movement should be possible. Lena bent one arm. Slow, painful, then the other. She pushed her chest up an inch from the floor. The control room erupted. She is moving! She should be unconscious! Lena let her chest drop again. She did not rush. She learned. She adjusted her breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Short, strong. Her body listened. She tried again. This time, she lifted higher. Her arms shook violently, but they held. Commander Vexar straightened. His voice was low. Increased to 7. Several officers turned sharply. Commander, no one survives 7. That is why we test, he replied. Inside the chamber, gravity slammed down harder. Lena cried out, a short, sharp sound she could not stop. Her body hit the floor again. Alarms blared red. End it! Someone shouted. Vexar raised his hand. Silence. Inside, Lena lay still. Seconds passed. Then her fingers moved. Slowly, painfully, she pulled her knees inward. She did not stand. She did not kneel. She crawled. Each movement was a war. But she moved. Outside, fear replaced disbelief. That is not endurance, an officer whispered. That is will. Lena reached the center of the chamber. She stopped there, laying flat, breathing hard. She turned her head and looked up at the ceiling. Enough, she said into the air, her voice weak but clear. The control room froze. She spoke. The technician said. Commander Vexar hesitated. Disengage gravity. Slowly. The pressure lifted. Lena stayed on the floor until the weight faded. When it did, she rolled onto her back and laughed quietly. A tired, broken laugh. The chamber door opened. Medical teams rushed forward, but Lena raised one hand. I can walk, she said. With effort, she stood. Every eye followed her as she stepped out of the chamber. She swayed but did not fall. Commander Vexar descended from the platform. He stopped a short distance from her. No warrior has reached 7, he said. Why did you enter? Lena wiped her face. To see if it could break me. And? He asked. She looked back at the dark chamber. It will need more time. Silence followed her words. Fear was born in that silence. Because the gravity chamber had failed, and the human had only just begun. After leaving the gravity chamber, Lena walked slowly through the wide metal corridors of the station. Her legs were sore, and her muscles burned as if fire ran under her skin. But each step felt stronger than the last. The observers had expected her to collapse completely, yet she had walked out with her head high. The station was silent in the aftermath. Warriors who had come to watch her attempt moved cautiously now. Many of them muttered to each other, afraid to meet her eyes. They had seen the human endure levels of gravity that even their strongest had failed to survive. Rumors began to spread, quiet whispers that ran along the metal walls like shadows. Lena passed the medical bay without stopping. The staff were waiting with machines and stimulants to check her body. She raised a hand politely and shook her head. "I do not need help," she said. "Not yet." Her voice was soft, but it carried a firmness that made them step back. The commanders gathered in a side room. Vexar sat at the head of a long table. Around him were the highest-ranking officers of the station, their faces tight with unease. "She survived," one said finally, breaking the silence. "And she did more than survive. She trained in it." "She is human," another replied, shaking his head. "They are fragile. They cannot endure this long. Something is wrong." Vexar leaned back, eyes narrowed. "Nothing is wrong. This is the first human I have seen who understands the pressure of survival. She is not weak. She adapts." The discussion grew heated. Some officers insisted that the human should be removed immediately from the station for her safety. Others argued that this was a rare opportunity to study human endurance. Outside the chamber, Lena found a quiet corner. She sat on the cold floor and closed her eyes. She could still feel the heavy weight pressing on her chest, the invisible force bending her bones. Her mind replayed every moment inside the chamber. Each second had been a test of patience, each movement a lesson. Her thoughts drifted to her homeworld, a place where gravity was strong and danger was constant. Her people had learned long ago to survive or die trying. There were no easy days. Every child trained to endure pain and pressure. Every adult learned that weakness would not be forgiven. It was here that Lena had learned how to control her body, how to use every ounce of strength without breaking. A soft sound behind her made her turn. A young warrior, smaller than most, stood hesitantly at the doorway. His armor was scratched and dented from previous attempts at the chamber. His eyes were wide, full of fear and awe. "Human," he said quietly.
I wanted to see how you did it. You were not like the others."
Lena studied him for a moment. "Do you want to survive?" she asked simply. He nodded, but his hands shook. I thought I could, but I never lasted. I couldn't move. You walked out." Lena smiled faintly. "You must learn to feel the gravity, not fight it. Let it guide you. Let it teach you." He swallowed nervously and backed away. Lena returned to her quiet corner, preparing herself. The station would not leave her alone for long. Already she felt the pull of curiosity and challenge. The gravity chamber had been only the first lesson. The next morning, the alarms of the station rang sharply. Lena was already awake, stretching carefully in her quarters. Her muscles ached, but she welcomed the feeling. It reminded her that she had survived. It reminded her that she was alive. A message arrived from Commander Vexar. Lena opened it. The message was simple. "Report to the chamber immediately. You will demonstrate your technique before the Council of Warriors." Lena stood and left her room. She moved through the hallways with a steady pace. The station was alive with activity. Warriors trained in various exercises, some heavy lifting, some combat simulations. Yet all paused as she passed. There was respect in their silence, but also fear. When she entered the chamber, the council waited. It was larger than the observation room she had faced yesterday. Alien warriors from several species stood tall, their eyes scanning her with suspicion and unease. Among them was Rock, a veteran known for crushing weaker opponents with raw strength. He was broad and muscular, his skin tough, his expression unreadable. "You survived the test yesterday," Rock said, his voice low. "But strength is not enough. The chamber can still kill you. Why do you challenge it again? Lena looked him directly in the eyes, because surviving is not enough.
I want to learn. I want to train.
Rock laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. Learn. This room has killed every champion who entered. What makes you think you can change that? I am not a champion, Lena replied. I am human, and humans do not fear pressure. We adapt. The council murmured among themselves. Vexar raised a hand for silence. Then we will observe. Let the trial begin. Gravity surged inside the chamber. The floor shifted subtly, sensors whirring as the machine measured every movement. It began at 5 times normal gravity, less than the final level yesterday, but already enough to crush most alien bones. Lena felt the weight pressing down on her. Her arms trembled slightly, but she bent her knees, lowered her center of gravity, and took a slow breath. Every nerve in her body screamed in protest. Yet she moved, inch by inch, adjusting to the pull. Rock stepped forward, flexing his arms. He raised the level to 6 times gravity, a level that had ended dozens of warriors before. Sweat formed on Lena's brow, but she did not falter. Her hands pressed into the floor, her legs strained as she shifted forward. She crawled slightly, testing each movement. The council gasped. No one had expected a human to move so deliberately at this gravity. "Stop her!" Rock shouted. "She will die!" Vexar raised his hand. "Let her move!" Observe her technique. Lena's body began to respond to the pressure. She found a rhythm, tiny adjustments, careful balance, slow breathing. Her eyes focused not on the pain but on the movement. The chamber no longer crushed her. It became a teacher. Each second, each push against the floor strengthened her. Hours passed. The gravity rose gradually higher than any human had ever faced outside of her home world. Her muscles screamed, yet she did not collapse. She learned to shift weight without strain, to let the force guide her instead of fight it. Rock's expression changed. Fear, disbelief, and anger mingled. He had never seen strength like this, not from a human, not from any species. Outside, Vexar watched quietly. "This is not endurance," he said. "This is adaptation. She is teaching herself to survive conditions that no one else could." By the time the trial ended, Lena had moved continuously for hours. She was bruised, her muscles trembled, but she stood tall when the gravity normalized. She looked at the council and said simply, "This room is no longer a prison. It is a training ground." The council whispered among themselves. Fear and respect battled in their expressions. Rock stepped back, silent for the first time. Vexar approached Lena. "You have done what no warrior has done. You have survived, and you have learned." Lena nodded, exhausted but proud. This is only the beginning. As she left the chamber, whispers followed her. Word would spread across the station and beyond. A human had turned the greatest death trap in the galaxy into a place to train. Some whispered fearfully that this human was not like any they had faced. Others, more curious, wondered what she would do next. Lena walked through the halls. Each step was heavier than the last from fatigue, but her mind raced with possibilities. The gravity chamber had tested her body. Next, it would test her mind, her skill, and her will. And Lena welcomed it, because the humans did not survive by fear. They survived by learning, and she had only just begun. The gravity chamber had grown quiet after Lena's last trial, but the whispers of her achievement spread quickly through the station. Every corridor, every lounge, every training hall carried her name. Human. Human. A word that had once drawn dismissive laughter now carried awe. Lena did not dwell on the attention. She returned to the chamber early the next morning, before the station awoke. The doors slid open, cold air rushing out to meet her. She stood at the center, letting her eyes sweep the round room. Every sensor, every floor plate, every ceiling panel waited for her. But Lena did not feel fear. She felt challenge. She stepped forward. The gravity surged gently at first, a reminder of yesterday. Her boots pressed into the floor, her knees bent. Her arms moved in small circles, warming her shoulders. The chamber had become a place to explore, not a trap. Every inch of her body remembered pain and endurance. She could feel it responding, muscles remembering their lessons. Hours passed. Lena experimented with techniques she had never tried. Small jumps, controlled rolls, precise steps, all against increasing gravity. The machines tested her, but she was learning faster than they could respond. She discovered ways to use the pressure to her advantage, forcing herself to move where others would have stopped entirely. Outside, the observation deck filled again. Warriors from many worlds crowded behind the glass. They were silent now, their expressions unreadable. Some hid fear behind stoicism. Some stared in disbelief. None moved closer than the barrier allowed. Among them was Roque. He had watched her previous trials and felt something unfamiliar. Respect. He clenched his fists as he studied her.
She should have failed hours ago, he muttered under his breath. Commander Vexer stood beside him.
This is more than survival. Watch her carefully. She is teaching herself in a way no other species has ever done. Rock's eyes narrowed. If she can move like this, she can fight like this. No warrior will match her strength in here. Vexer said nothing, letting the chamber speak for itself. Inside, Lena increased the gravity further. She had learned to adapt, but the new level still pushed her to the edge. Her legs shook with each step. Her lungs burned. Every nerve demanded that she stop, that she kneel and surrender. But she pressed on. She moved to the wall and pressed her hands against it. Slowly, painfully, she lifted one leg and placed it carefully. Then the other. Step by step she walked along the curved wall of the chamber. This was not survival anymore. This was mastery. Suddenly a warning light flashed. Sensors detected an anomaly in her movement. The system expected her to collapse, but she adjusted instantly, her body bending and twisting against the force. Outside, Rock tensed. "Impossible," he said. "She is rewriting the rules of this chamber." A younger warrior nearby whispered, "She is not human. Not in the same way we are." Vexer watched, silent but fascinated. "No, she is human, and this is what humans can do when they refuse to break." Hours passed. Lena trained. Every movement she made taught her something new. She discovered that the chamber could be more than a test. It could be a place to sharpen skill, speed, and precision. Each technique she tried was more daring than the last. Rolls, jumps, lunges, and controlled stumbles allowed her to push her body beyond its limits safely. Rock could no longer hide his fear. The human was not just surviving. She was transforming the chamber into her own tool. Finally, Lena paused in the center. She was drenched in sweat, her suit sticking to her body. Every muscle trembled, every bone ached. And yet she smiled. Pain had become a guide, a teacher, not an enemy. She had not completed the trial yet. She had not tested herself against the limits of speed or combat. But she now understood the chamber like few could. Outside, whispers turned into talk. One alien warrior said, "No one else will enter after her. Who can match this?" Another replied, "Perhaps no one can." Rock's eyes burned with frustration. "I have trained decades in the most dangerous arenas. She is rewriting everything we know about strength and endurance."
Vexar raised a hand, calling for silence. Let her decide her pace.
"She is not a champion we can defeat by rules or force. She is a teacher in this chamber." Lena knew the chamber was teaching her too. She began combining movements she had mastered. She jumped and rolled simultaneously, using the weight of gravity to push herself higher. She shifted direction mid-air, letting the force carry her. She practiced small punches and blocks, imagining the momentum of opponents. Each motion became more fluid, more precise. Outside, Rock could not believe what he was seeing. Every movement defied what the chamber was meant to do. Every controlled exertion made him feel inadequate. Hours turned into what felt like days. Lena did not stop except for short breaks to catch her breath. Each time she learned more. She realized she could endure longer than she thought, move faster, and even fight while the gravity tried to crush her body. The younger warriors began to take notes, quietly observing. They whispered to each other. "She moves like the chamber is nothing." "She turns pressure into strength," another said. Lena felt the presence of observers, but she did not care. The chamber was no longer a place of fear. It was a tool, and she was mastering it. Vexor watched with an unusual expression. She will change how humans are seen. Not just on this station, but everywhere. Rock clenched his teeth. "I will not allow her to dominate like this," he muttered. For Lena, it did not matter. She focused only on her body and mind, pushing through fatigue and testing limits. Her movements became sharper, faster, more precise. Every exercise, every motion was controlled. Pain became rhythm. Exhaustion became strength. At one point, the gravity increased suddenly. The chamber tested her unexpectedly. She fell briefly but used the fall to twist and roll, landing perfectly. The council gasped. None had thought this possible. "Unbelievable," a technician said. "She used the chamber against itself." "She is learning too fast," Vexor said quietly. Lena rose, her breathing heavy but even. She raised a hand as if signaling victory. It was not victory over the chamber. It was mastery. She had transformed what had killed countless warriors into a place of training, growth, and strength. The council whispered among themselves. The whispers carried fear, curiosity, and respect. Finally, the gravity slowly decreased. Lena stood in the center, trembling, sweat dripping, every muscle screaming. And yet, she smiled. She had endured more than she ever thought possible and had learned more than any warrior had before. Rock stepped forward, his voice low and controlled. You are a human?" "Yes," Lena said. "And I have only just begun." The council fell silent. The room had been silent for hours, but now it carried a new tension. The humans were no longer the weak species everyone had assumed. This one human had changed the perception of strength, endurance, and courage. Lena walked out of the chamber slowly, her legs still trembling. Every eye followed her. Some stared in awe. Some hid fear behind clenched fists. Some began to rethink everything they had believed about humans. Commander Vexor approached her. "You are beyond anything we have seen. The gravity chamber was never meant to be used like this." Lena shook her head. "It was never about what it was meant to do. It is what I make it. Every challenge is a lesson, and I will keep learning." Outside, the station began to buzz with news. Reports spread quickly. One human had not only survived the deadliest chamber in the galaxy but had learned from it, mastered it, and transformed it into her own training ground. Rock followed her from a distance. He clenched his fists, frustrated and curious at the same time. He had been a champion for decades, but he had never seen someone endure like this. Never seen someone turn death into skill. The younger warriors began to approach Lena cautiously. They wanted to learn, to see, to understand, but she shook her head. "This is not for you yet. First, watch. Learn how to respect pressure, not fear it." Vexor smiled faintly. "She will change everything. The galaxy will have to learn a new truth about humans." Lana returned to her quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. She stretched carefully, feeling every muscle, every joint, every nerve. The chamber had tested her body. Now it had tested her mind. Every lesson had been absorbed. Every movement remembered. Every pain endured had become strength. Tomorrow, she knew she would return. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. There was more to learn, more ways to adapt, more techniques to master. The gravity chamber was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of growth. And Lena, the human, had turned what was once a tomb into her personal training ground. The galaxy had seen only the beginning. The station had grown quieter after Lena's display of strength in the gravity chamber. Whispers filled the halls, and many warriors avoided the room entirely. No one dared step inside after seeing what she had done. Fear and respect mingled in their eyes, yet not all were willing to surrender. Among them was Rock, the veteran who had watched her last trial with disbelief. He had trained for decades, fought countless enemies, and believed no one could match him. Lena's endurance and skill inside the chamber had challenged everything he thought he knew. Rock approached Commander Vexer privately. "She cannot be allowed to continue untested," he said, his voice low but tense. "If she trains like this, no warrior here can compete. We must challenge her." Vexar studied him calmly. "You may face her, if you are willing. The chamber will be the test. But remember, this is not a battle of strength alone. It is a test of adaptation, learning, and willpower." Rock's eyes narrowed. "I am ready." Word of the duel spread quickly. The council agreed to witness it. Lena arrived at the chamber early as always. She moved with careful steps, her body still sore from previous trials, yet her eyes burned with focus. She understood the chamber better than anyone now. She felt the gravity's pull, the pressure, and even its subtle shifts. It was no longer a threat. It was part of her. Rock entered behind her, massive and imposing. His armor gleamed under the lights. He radiated confidence and raw strength. Many of the observing warriors whispered nervously. Rock had never lost in combat inside the station. He had killed dozens in training and survived the chamber more times than anyone could count. "You are human," Rock said, voice low but commanding. "I do not understand how you survive here, but I will test you." "I am ready," Lena replied. Her voice was calm, her body was tense, but her mind clear. The chamber doors closed behind them. Gravity rose immediately, higher than it had for any previous human test. The observers outside gasped. This level had ended alien champions before. Rock charged instantly, muscles straining as the weight pressed down. Lena watched carefully, adjusting her stance. She bent her knees, letting her body absorb the force, and waited. The first strike came. Rock swung with immense power, trying to push her off balance. Gravity amplified the strength of his movements. Most warriors would have been thrown to the floor, broken before they could react. But Lena stepped lightly to the side. She let the force guide her, rolling slightly to avoid the blow. The chamber's pressure pressed against her body, but she used it to push herself back into a defensive stance. Rock was surprised. "She moves too fast," he shouted. Lena responded with a controlled movement of her own. She shifted her weight, planted her feet firmly, and struck forward with a short, precise push, not to injure, but to test Rock's balance. He staggered slightly the first time anyone had moved him inside the chamber. The observers outside murmured. Many had never expected the human to fight effectively at this gravity, let alone against a champion like Rock. Rock recovered quickly, his eyes burning with focus. He attacked again, more forceful this time, testing every angle, trying to crush her under the chamber's weight. Lena responded with a combination of rolls, pivots, and small jumps, each movement calculated. Every action she made learned from the previous strike, her body adapting faster than any machine could measure. Minutes passed. Neither combatant gave up. Rock's strikes became more frustrated. Each time he landed a blow, Lena adjusted. Each time he tried to overwhelm her, she countered with patience and precision. "Impossible," Rock muttered under his breath. "No human could do this." Lena's mind raced. She felt the gravity pressing her bones, muscles screaming, her lungs burning. But she focused. Pain was a teacher. Exhaustion was a guide. Every movement was careful, deliberate. The chamber, once a prison, was now part of her rhythm. Gravity rose further. The floor groaned under the pressure. Many observers thought this would end quickly, that the human would collapse. Yet she moved with surprising grace, adjusting her steps, using the chamber's weight to enhance her pushes and blocks. Roke attacked with his full strength, striking downward with a massive fist. The chamber amplified the force, sending tremors through the floor. Lena felt it hit her shoulder, but she twisted, letting the blow slide past her. She dropped low, using gravity to coil her body and spring upward. She struck forward with her forearm, hitting Rock's chest lightly. The movement was precise, a demonstration of control rather than brute force. The chamber's observers were silent. Shock replaced fear. This human had not only survived, she had dominated the rhythm of the chamber. She had used the pressure as a weapon. Rock paused, breathing heavily. His eyes widened. He had faced warriors stronger, faster, and larger than this human. Yet here she was, controlling every movement, learning from his attacks in real time, turning his strength into openings. Lena smiled faintly. "You rely on power," she said, voice steady. "I rely on learning." Roke gritted his teeth. He attacked again, this time trying to corner her against the chamber wall. Gravity pushed her heavily into the floor. She rolled, flipped, and landed on her feet, using the pressure to spring forward and create distance. Minutes became hours. Both were exhausted, yet Lena's body adjusted continuously. She found ways to move more efficiently, conserving energy while Rock struggled under the same weight. The observers began to see a new truth. Humans were not weak. They did not fight with raw strength alone. They learned, adapted, and turned challenges into advantages. Rock's frustration grew. He struck harder, faster, more forcefully, yet Lena's movements were always just out of reach. She used the chamber itself, letting gravity amplify her steps and rolls, each move precise and deliberate. Finally, Rock stumbled. His legs shook from exhaustion. Gravity pressed harder on his frame, while Lena remained steady, her breathing controlled. She could see it in his eyes. He had never faced an opponent like her. Not a warrior, not a champion, not anyone. She moved closer, carefully, deliberately, not to strike him but to demonstrate mastery. She adjusted her stance and raised her arm lightly. Rock's chest heaved, sweat dripping from his brow. He tried one last attack, but his body could not respond quickly enough. Lena stepped aside, using the force of gravity to push him gently but firmly to the floor. The chamber fell silent. Even the machines paused, as if acknowledging the human's control. Brock lay on the floor, breathing heavily, astonished. He had never been bested so thoroughly, never faced such mastery. And yet he had not been harmed. Lena stood in the center, trembling slightly, sweat covering her body. She had been pushed to her absolute limits, yet she remained standing. She had turned the deadliest test into her own training, her own advantage. The chamber doors opened. Observers gasped, some whispering, some staring in disbelief. Roke rose slowly, his expression unreadable. He approached Lena and extended his hand. "You have done what no warrior could do," he said quietly. "You have mastered this place."
I have never seen anything like it."
Lena nodded, accepting his hand. Strength is not enough. Learning is. Adaptation is. This chamber teaches more than death. It teaches control.
Vexar stepped forward.
You have changed the chamber forever. No warrior will fear it again, not in the same way. Lena's body was exhausted, yet she felt alive in a way she had never known. Every movement, every test, every strike had taught her something new. The chamber was no longer a trap. It was a school, a teacher, and she had become its student and master at the same time. Outside, the whispers had grown louder. Word would spread that the human had bested Rock inside the deadliest chamber in the galaxy. Fear mixed with awe in the eyes of every warrior who had watched. Humans were no longer underestimated. They were respected. And some feared them. Rock followed Lena from the chamber, his expression thoughtful. He had fought many enemies in his lifetime. Few had survived his attacks. None had taught him anything. Lena had not only survived, she had taught him a lesson in patience, control, and adaptation. The younger warriors cautiously approached Lena, some hesitant, some inspired. How did you do that?" one whispered. She smiled faintly. "You must listen to the chamber. Feel it. Learn from it. Do not fight it blindly. Pain and pressure are teachers, not enemies. Vexar watched silently, his mind turning. The humans had always been underestimated. They were smaller, seemingly weaker, yet here was proof that their strength was not in size or brute force, but in resilience, learning, and adaptation. Lena walked to her quarters, every step careful. Her body ached, her muscles screamed, yet she was satisfied. The chamber had been more than a test. It had been a teacher, a battlefield, and a proving ground. And she had mastered it. The galaxy would hear of this. The station would never be the same. The gravity chamber had been a place of death for countless warriors. Yet now it had a new story. The story of a human who refused to break, who learned, adapted, and turned death into strength. Lena looked back at the chamber one last time that day. It had tested her, pushed her, and threatened her. And yet, she had walked out alive. Not just alive, but stronger than ever. She knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, new warriors, new levels of pressure. But she would face them all, because humans do not simply survive. They adapt. They learn. And in the deadliest places of the galaxy, they thrive where others fall. The gravity chamber would never be feared the same way again. And Lena, the human, had shown everyone why. The station's alarms rang suddenly, sharp and urgent. Red lights flashed across the halls. Lena was in the gravity chamber, training as usual, when the first warning sounded. She stopped immediately, sweat still running down her face, and looked up. The gravity was still high, but she no longer felt it as a threat. It was routine now, a tool she could control. The message came through the chamber's communication system. Enemy fleet detected. Boarding teams en route. All stations on high alert. Prepare for defense. Lena's pulse quickened, but not with fear. This was what she had trained for, in her own way, inside the chamber. She had endured pressure, pain, and fatigue beyond anything these aliens could imagine. She had adapted. And now she would put it to use. The chamber doors opened automatically. Lena stepped out, her body still trembling from training, but her mind was clear and focused. Commander Vexar was already waiting, flanked by a few officers. His expression was tense, but his eyes held something else. Respect, and perhaps hope. The fleet is approaching fast, Vexar said. They use gravity weapons. Their boarding teams are elite. Most stations would fall in hours. We are prepared, but barely. You are our best chance. Can you help? Lena nodded. I trained for this. I can move where others cannot. I can fight where others would fail. Tell me the entry points, and I will stop them. Vexar hesitated briefly. We have reinforced shields, but the fleet can disable them quickly. You must intercept the boarding squads before they reach critical systems. I understand, Lena said, her voice steady. She already had a plan forming in her mind. The chamber had taught her to read pressure, to anticipate movement, to use the environment as part of her strength. This battle would be no different. The station shuddered as the first enemy ships fired. The shields glowed under impact, forcing sparks of energy across the hull. The alarms blared, and the hallways vibrated. Boarding teams were deploying now, small but deadly craft dropping into the station's docking bays. Lena moved quickly, her training in the chamber guiding her every step. She sprinted through the corridors, low-gravity exercises allowing her to cover distances faster than anyone expected. She adjusted her balance as gravity fluctuated in the station's damaged sections. Every muscle responded automatically. Pain and fatigue were no longer obstacles. They were signals, guiding her movements. Her first encounter was in a storage bay. A small squad of the enemy had breached the hull and entered the room. Lena did not hesitate. She dropped low, using a sudden burst of strength to roll under the first enemy's swing. Her legs drove her forward with precision, her forearm striking another with enough force to knock him off balance. They had expected to catch the station off guard, but she moved too fast. Her body adapted to extreme pressure, her instincts sharper than any ordinary warrior's. The others tried to surround her, but Lena anticipated their movements. She rolled, twisted, and pushed off walls, using momentum to strike and evade. Each motion was fluid, a combination of her human training and what she had learned in the gravity chamber. The squad fell back, stunned and unprepared for such speed and precision. Outside, Rock and a few other alien warriors watched through the observation displays.
Even they could not believe what they saw. She is unstoppable,
Rock muttered under his breath. Lena did not stop. She moved through the docking bays, intercepting every boarding party. The enemy underestimated her human resilience. They could not comprehend how someone so small and seemingly fragile could move so effectively under such extreme conditions. Each hallway became a battlefield. Every wall, every corner, every floor panel was used to her advantage. She bounced off surfaces, rolled under attacks, and struck with precision, sending attackers tumbling before they could react. Minutes felt like hours, but Lena did not falter. Her mind was sharp, her body responding instinctively. She remembered the lessons from the chamber. Pressure was a tool, pain was a guide, fatigue was a signal, not a limit. She had mastered endurance, and now she was applying it to real combat. The enemy realized quickly that their tactics were useless against her. Small squads were falling one by one. Boarding teams that had been confident in their strength found themselves outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and overwhelmed. Lena did not kill recklessly, but her strikes incapacitated efficiently. The gravity chamber had trained her for precision under extreme stress, and now she was using that training to defend the station. The station shook again as the enemy fleet fired another wave of attacks. The shields held, but not for long. Lena knew that if the enemy reached the central command, the station would fall. She sprinted through the corridors, her body moving faster than any normal human could. She intercepted another boarding squad near the central core. This group was larger, more organized, and better equipped. They attacked with coordinated strikes. Lena dodged, rolled, and countered. Her body moved automatically, responding to gravity, pressure, and momentum. She used walls as leverage, jumping and flipping to avoid attacks, landing with precise strikes that sent attackers back. One of the enemies charged her directly, swinging a heavy weapon. Lena bent low, letting gravity pull her closer to the floor. Then she used the momentum to launch herself upward, striking the enemy with a kick that sent him crashing into a bulkhead. The others hesitated, unsure how to respond to someone moving so unpredictably and efficiently. Rock watched, leaning forward. He had trained warriors for decades, yet he had never seen such skill. She is not just strong. She is learning faster than they can think, he muttered. Lena pressed forward. Each encounter taught her something. She observed patterns in the enemy movements, adapted in real time, and anticipated attacks before they happened. Her body responded faster than the attackers could react, a combination of instinct, training, and human resilience. The boarding squads were dwindling. Some retreated, overwhelmed by the human warrior who seemed to be everywhere at once. Others attempted to regroup, but Lena used the station's architecture to her advantage, creating choke points, forcing them into narrow corridors where their size and weight became disadvantages. Hours passed. Lena moved tirelessly, her body exhausted but still precise. Her mind analyzed each enemy movement, predicting their next step. She used every technique she had practiced in the gravity chamber: rolls, flips, controlled falls, and precise strikes. Her small size allowed her to evade attacks, while her training in extreme gravity gave her the strength to counter with power that surprised even the largest opponents. Finally, the last boarding team reached the central control room. Lena anticipated their arrival. She positioned herself strategically, using the gravity shifts in the room to enhance her movements. The enemies charged, confident they would finally overwhelm her. She met them head-on. Her strikes were precise, her movements calculated. Every step, every roll, every counterattack used the environment and the chamber's lessons. She moved faster than they could follow, striking and evading, turning their strength against them. Minutes later, the room was silent. The last enemy lay incapacitated, unable to continue the fight. Lena stood in the center, breathing heavily, her body trembling from exhaustion, but victorious. The station's alarm slowly returned to normal. The boarding attack had been repelled. The enemy fleet retreated, shocked by the effectiveness of a single human defending the station. Outside, Rock and the observing warriors were silent. Rock finally spoke, voice low and filled with awe. No, one could have done this. No warrior. Not any of us. Only a human could survive, adapt, and triumph like this. Commander Vexar approached Lena through the communication system. You have done what we never thought possible. You have defended this station alone. You have changed everything we know about survival and combat. Lena nodded, exhausted, but steady. I trained for this. The chamber taught me how to endure, how to move, how to adapt. Humans survive by learning, not by relying on size or strength alone. The news spread through the station quickly. Every warrior, every officer, and every observer knew that the human had turned a training ground into a battlefield where she had mastered pressure, pain, and strategy. Fear, respect, and admiration mixed in the whispers. Roke approached Lena when she returned from the central control room. He was quiet, his usual arrogance replaced by cautious respect. You are more than a warrior. You are something else. I have never seen a human like you. Lena smiled faintly. This is only the beginning. I will keep learning.
I will keep adapting. Every challenge is a lesson.
The station settled into calm again. Systems were repaired, and the shields held. The enemy fleet had been repelled, but the lesson was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. Lena had proven that even the deadliest environments, the harshest pressures and the most elite enemies could be overcome with adaptation, learning, and perseverance. And the gravity chamber had prepared her for every step of it. The station was quiet again, though the echoes of battle still lingered in the corridors. Warriors moved cautiously, repairing damaged sections, checking systems, and whispering about the human who had single-handedly defended the station. Lena walked through the halls, her steps steady but her body still tired from the fight. She had trained her mind and body for moments like this, but the reality of battle was always sharper than practice. Commander Vexar met her near the central hub. His face carried a mixture of relief, admiration, and calculation. You have done what no warrior has ever done. You have turned the deadliest chamber into a weapon of defense and training. The station owes its survival to you. Lena nodded. The chamber taught me how to move under pressure, how to use every ounce of strength without breaking. Every challenge is a lesson. Every opponent is a teacher. Vexar studied her carefully. You have changed everything. Not just here, but for humans across the galaxy. Your methods, your endurance, they are beyond what anyone expected. I trained, Lena said simply, and I will continue. There is always more to learn. Outside the central hub, Rock approached. The veteran warrior's pride had been humbled. He had faced champions from countless worlds, but none had moved like Lena. None had adapted so quickly, so effectively, and with such precision. You are more than a warrior, Rock said, his voice quiet. You are something we do not understand. I have trained for decades, yet I have learned more from watching you than from any battle I have fought. Lena glanced at him. Humans survive by adapting. We learn faster than we appear to. We turn weakness into strength. Rock nodded slowly, still absorbing the truth. I will tell the others. They will respect you, or fear you, perhaps both. Lena allowed herself a small smile. She had faced extreme gravity, survived the deadliest chamber in the galaxy, bested a champion warrior, and defended the station against a fleet of enemies. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. Humans were underestimated everywhere. She would change that. The station's council called a meeting to discuss the future of the gravity chamber. Lena attended, quietly observing as commanders and warriors debated. Some argued the chamber should be closed, claiming it was too dangerous for any species, including humans. Others insisted it must remain, now that someone had proven it could be mastered. Vexar spoke. The chamber has always been feared, but fear does not teach. Survival does. Humans, specifically this one human, have shown that the chamber can be a place of learning, growth, and mastery. It should remain open, and it should become a human training ground. The council murmured, considering the suggestion. Many were hesitant, unwilling to change old protocols. Yet Lena's performance spoke louder than any argument. She had survived what no other species could. She had learned faster, moved faster, and adapted faster than anyone in the galaxy had expected. Finally, a vote was called. One by one, the council members cast their decision. The chamber would remain open. It would be designated as a human training center, a place where humans could hone their skills, test their limits, and adapt to conditions no other species could endure. Word spread quickly. Across the station, whispers turned into admiration.
"The human has transformed the chamber," one warrior said. "She has shown what humans are capable of. She survived the impossible," another added.
As she turned it into her strength. Lena returned to the chamber that evening. She moved through the corridor silently, her body tired but her mind focused. The chamber was quiet, waiting for her presence. She stood in the center and felt the weight of the room. Gravity shifted gently, sensors humming. She smiled faintly. This was no longer a prison. It was a teacher, and she had mastered it. She began training again, slowly at first, feeling her muscles respond, her body remembering every motion. She practiced precise steps, jumps, and rolls. Each movement was efficient, fluid, and deliberate. Her training was continuous, even after the battle. Every step taught her something new. Every motion refined her skill. Rock entered silently, watching. He had been assigned to oversee human training in the chamber, learning from Lena's techniques. He observed quietly, realizing that he could not replicate her speed or adaptation. Yet he could learn, and he would pass this knowledge to others. "You have changed everything," Rock said quietly. "Not just for humans, but for all of us. The chamber is no longer a trap. It is a tool. And you are the key." Lena nodded. "The chamber is a teacher. I have learned, and now I will continue. Others will follow, and they will learn too. Humans survive by learning. That is our strength." The next days passed quickly. Lena trained tirelessly, refining her techniques and exploring the limits of the chamber. Other humans arrived, curious and eager to learn. They watched, practiced, and adapted under her guidance. Slowly, the chamber became a center of human resilience and mastery. The aliens who had once doubted humans began to respect them, realizing that survival and adaptation were more powerful than raw strength alone. Rock observed, occasionally testing his own skills against the humans. He learned that strength without adaptation was limited. He saw the humans move with precision, using their environment, the chamber's gravity, and their instincts to gain advantage. They were smaller, yes, but faster, sharper, and more resilient than most species expected. Lena watched quietly, allowing them to make mistakes, guiding subtly when necessary. She had turned the chamber into a classroom of endurance and adaptation, and the humans were learning quickly. Months passed. The chamber was filled with humans training, each pushing their limits, learning from failures, and adapting in ways that impressed the station's veteran warriors. Word spread beyond the station. Across the galaxy, humans became known not for their size or raw strength, but for their ability to endure, learn, and adapt. Enemy fleets, hearing of the human training, began to hesitate before attacks. The reputation of humans had grown. They were no longer underestimated. The galaxy had learned that humans survived where others fell. One evening, Lena stood alone in the center of the chamber, reflecting. Her body ached from years of training, yet her mind was sharp. She had turned death into strength, fear into mastery, and pressure into learning. The chamber had taught her more than any enemy ever could. Commander Vexar approached her silently. "You have done more than survive," he said.
"You have changed the perception of humans across the galaxy."
"You have turned the impossible into a legacy." Lena nodded. "Humans survive by learning. That is what we do. The chamber has taught me, and now it will teach others." We will endure, adapt, and grow stronger. No challenge is too great if you are willing to learn from it.
Vexar smiled faintly. Then, the future is secure.
The station is safe, and humans have proven their worth. Lena looked at the chamber one last time that night. The machines hummed softly, the floor panels glowed, and the gravity shifted gently as if acknowledging her presence. It had tested her, shaped her, and trained her. She had survived when no one else could. She had learned when others would have fallen. And now, she had created a legacy. The humans on the station were no longer just survivors. They were masters of the deadliest chamber in the galaxy. They were proof that adaptation, learning, and perseverance could overcome any challenge. Lena took a deep breath. Tomorrow the humans would train again. New warriors would enter the chamber, ready to face pressure, pain, and fatigue. And they would learn. They would adapt. They would survive. The galaxy would watch. And everywhere, humans would be remembered not as weak, but as unstoppable. Because where others failed, humans endured. Where others broke, humans adapted. And where others feared, humans thrived. The gravity chamber had once been a place of death. Now it was a place of life, learning, and human strength. And Lena had made sure that everyone knew it.